Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
Hi, Rob Browne here with you on this Thursday morning, broadcasting live from Memphis, the River City. It is cold, more sleet, freezing rain forecast for today. We rode all over Memphis, man. Went out running some just errands and doing stuff all during the day, working. I ended up out at Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville. And that was incredible. The square looks beautiful. Hewlett and Dunn, saw Charles Hall and everybody out there at the store. They got lots of great clothing. It's cold. They've got it all. They've got Filson. They've got STS. I got this new vest out there. It's keeping me quite warm today with a Rock Mount shirt. More duck heads than you've ever seen in your life. And you get out there and you just say to yourself, what else can I get to stay warm? Well, they've got it. They've got boots. Those Danner hiking boots, I think, are the best that I've ever used before. The low cut. They've got Filson luggage. They got a 50% off rack. They got all the great boots that you need for getting around. You cannot find, in my opinion, a better store than Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the square in Collierville, Tennessee. All right, let's do this. Let's take a quick break. We're going to be right back with Sidelines Thursday edition after this. Hi, Rob Browne back here with you. And look, SEC basketball getting underway, but I'm going to tell you, it is hard. You can't ever walk away from football, not in the South. And looking at what's going on in Alabama, it surprises me because after 17 years of Nick Saban building up just the best program in America and all these players that are going into the portal, man, that's a shock. And I can understand some leaving, but why are they leaving? You got to ask yourself that because they've got a hell of a situation there. 49 first-round draft picks. If I'm an Alabama player, yeah, I'm upset. I'm sad that Nick Saban and the coaches that recruited me and that coached me are there. But, man, kids today that are just at the drop of a hat, the first sign of adversity, they run out the door. they're going to get a really, really rude awakening when they get into the real world, because most of them are not going to be playing pro football, even if they do, not for very long. Hey, we do it 25 days a month, over 300 shows a year. You got to bring the best guests on. You got to send them the link on time. Mildred will be Dr. Day's paid for that one. Well, you know what? So anyway, Doug, my apologies. It's a warm 28 degrees up here. Yesterday it was 3 degrees. How are you?
Fantastic. Y'all get a bunch of snow, I gather, right?
I think we got like 6 inches. I think some of the areas got more. We rode all over Memphis, ended up in Collierville yesterday. There, most of the major streets, Poplar Avenue, which is our like Peachtree in Atlanta, has one lane partially open still, and that snow came Sunday. It's been here. We got more on the way today.
I think I barely had a passing grade in geography in my younger years, but I've come to really appreciate it as the years have gone by. And you know, Arkansas is an interesting state that should always be thought of as part of the Deep South, and yet, man, climate-wise, they're really kind of Midwest, aren't they?
Well, climate-wise, you've got everything. You've got the tropical climate in the Delta where we are, and you go from 110 degrees in the summer to 5 below the other day with wind chills, 15, 20 below. You've got like just, 12 miles from here, Crowley's Ridge, which is 700 feet. And you can see it out the window here. Then you start looking at the Ozarks are not that far away. Yeah, it is the natural state. They got it all. And I got a heater on either side of me. So, man, I can think today. But look, Alabama is gorgeous, Northeast Alabama. And Mountain Brook, Vestavia, and Homewood, you ain't going to find you give me mountains any day of the week. But if you put some ice in there, that shuts down Vestavia, I would imagine. It's hard to move around with those hills.
And I hope everyone is doing all the tricks of the trade. Like if of course they needed to hear this 5 days ago more than today, but it's going back super cold again the next few days.
Yeah.
And if you have pipes that may be exposed on the exterior, open those cabinet doors so that heat inside your house will keep the pipes warm. Is there anything worse, Rob? That pipe freezes and the water and it thaws out. You've got a gusher coming, and that can destroy hardwood floors and worse. So everybody be smart, especially these, like my farmhouse at the hunting club.
Yeah.
I have a friend down there who's local, and I gave him a key to the house, and he was kind enough to make sure the heat is on. So it's a rough one, and make sure and take care of the older folks, people who are a little more vulnerable. Make sure their heat is on and everybody's safe. Rob, man, the minute you call it the college football off season, air quotes on that, all breaks loose on all fronts. It's just remarkable. I want to again wish Coach Saban and Miss Terry nothing but a delightful time, however they want to enjoy their retirement. When I think of Nick Saban, I don't think the word retirement really applies. There's no way that guy is going to sit and suck on Werther's originals in his rocking chair with a grandbaby on. He maybe have a grandbaby on his knee, but he'll probably be doing film study with them, right?
Yeah, and I'm totally with you. There is never an off season, and I want to get to it. I know you always are so great with the structure and the points that you want to make, so I'm going to just turn it over, let you get going. But Kelly Leak here, the bad news bear is what I'm going to call this guy. Coaching turnover at Auburn is improvement. At Bama, it is not. But losing Cadillac and Zach Etheridge for whatever reason, I'm not going to get into it. I hate to see that. I hate it. But Hugh Freeze, he knows what he's got to do.
Yeah, Kelly is a very thoughtful and high football IQ and probably all sports IQ poster that I hope he continues to drop these pearls and wisdom on us. I don't want to be unfair to Alabama in this transition. Kalen DeBoer hasn't coached a single game wearing the crimson and white yet, but he sure looked like he knew what he was doing this past season. So I'm the wrong one to ask much of an opinion on that coaching hire. I would say, and I really agree, and it's sort of contrarian to what you hear from the popular media. And I'm more and more consider a show that comes on from 2 to 6 p.m. on SEC Network that you may know about. I'm not the show host who will not be named, but he's back to his old Birmingham radio tricks, vilifying and sort of smearing Hugh Freeze. That, and admittedly, the ideal we can all agree with, the ideal would be to hit a bat 1,000 on every single coaching hire when you were hired a year ago, December 22, I guess. But that was unrealistic. Hugh Freeze may well have had pressure, and he didn't have much leverage in that coaching hire. But he may have had people that thought it was in his interest to go hire very proven coordinators, not necessarily ones he had worked directly with. But whatever went down, it did not work with Philip Montgomery. I think from a results standpoint, overall, it worked with Ron Roberts at DC, with one very glaring exception on a particular 4th and 31 play. It was arguably a fireable offense to rush 2 guys and have a useless spy, but I really don't want to circle back into that moment. And it is interesting that will be the glorious moment of the very last Iron Bowl that Nick Saban coached. So more power to him. He was kind, and Coach Saban was humble to say, we've been on the wrong side of our share of these in the Iron Bowl. So I thought that was gracious. But I'm going to say that the hire of Derek Nix, plucking him away, and shout out to Lane Kiffin, come to the SIP. Hugh Freeze plucked one out of the SIP, which happens in coaching. These guys are looking at, what pathway can get me to greater responsibility, maybe a little greater compensation, but playing on what he at least considers potentially a bigger stage. And historically, Auburn, it's just a fact. It's not offensive. Auburn has more often been on the really big stage in the modern era than Ole Miss. I do think Lane Kiffin, it's all before him. He has a chance to change that narrative and the results this coming season. So I'll be watching. I'm not cheering against Ole Miss either. I think it'll be fun to watch. Your thoughts on that? I think Derek Nix was a great hire. He is not going to be the primary play caller, but because Hugh Freeze has been clear, he wants to be more engaged in that. But I do think they will have a comfort level. They've worked together before at Ole Miss. And he will listen to Derek Nix. There will be input, including from Kent Austin. If they see something Hugh might approve, in a matter of seconds, a play that they call. But most of the time, I think Hugh's going to have a sequence in mind that he's working, and the other guys will just be an extra set of eyes in the box.
Well, along that line, Derek Nix, he's from Etowah County, Gadsden. He's been at Ole Miss. He's kind of their Joe Witt. If you're an Auburn fan, you know who Joe Witt, how important he was those 25 years, then in Tigers Unlimited. Now, that is put it in perspective. Derek Nix has kept every coaching staff together at Ole Miss and every transition for the last 23, 25 years, whatever. That is a huge deal. But I'm going to tell you the biggest one is the man from Brentwood Academy. I watched him in high school, beat MUS 35-7, Ken Austin and the tight end Jimmy Hockaday. Ken Austin, when he came to Auburn, I was told, well, he's not going to be the coordinator. You need someone, bigger pro. And I'm like, have you lost your minds? Auburn fans, get ready. You're going to see the real, authentic Hugh Freeze. And this offense that Auburn is going to have is going to be as fun to watch as Steve Spurrier's offense when he was in his heyday. You have seen nothing yet. And what you are seeing, and I hate it for Cadillac and for Jack Etheridge that they're gone. I hate it. But you know what? Whatever they did is none of my damn business. I don't care. I don't, whatever. Okay. Now it's time to move on. But man, Kent Austin is sort of like, if you ever saw the movie where the guy was down under the Pentagon going through the computer, breaking the code, that's what Kent Austin is going to do. Critical. Yeah. This is just, if you're an Auburn fan, it's beyond ginormous. This is a great move on Hugh Freeze's part. I know I'm tough on him, and so are you, but this is brilliant.
Well, please be right, Rob Browne. You're right more than you're wrong. If we were in Vegas, I think the wise guys that really, play the various games will tell you if you can get to a 53% winning percentage in Vegas, that's all you can ask. But I think you're up in the 80% range. Yeah, please be right. And of course, to say Auburn is going to be dramatically better is kind of the bar is low on that because except for the running game, how could it be much worse last year? If you look at average passing yards per game, and I'm just not quite ready to put all of that on Peyton Thorne. I was disappointed in the bowl game that he didn't acquit himself better, but I don't think he had a lot of highly motivated players around him. So I'm just going to flush that Music City Bowl. It's embarrassing, along with the New Mexico State debacle. And Hugh Freeze gets credit for both of those. We're not going to be tolerant or patient, Coach Freeze, in 2024 if we see a game where your explanation for it, i.e. excuse, is, well, I really needed to focus on recruiting. That's a one-year deal. A lot of us didn't even like it in 23. So that needs to – I don't care what recruit wants you to have a home visit on Wednesday of a game week. Text or Zoom with him after practices and game planning is done. I hate to sound like a noise. That we do have help on the way. They've gone in the portal and gotten a couple of wide receivers. These four, and now it looks like with the disruption of Coach Saban's retirement, Ryan Williams, the 5-star that everybody wants in Saraland in South Alabama, decommits. That by no means makes it an automatic that he's going to sign with Auburn in February.
Yeah.
I would probably rather be Auburn in that competition at the moment than others. You do maybe want to keep an eye on Texas only because KJ Lacey, his quarterback, will be there in a year. So, Auburn is in very good position. And meanwhile, I want to let you comment on all that, but I also want to come back to the subject of what can the NCAA do with the disruption and unfairness, in this case to Alabama, of making a coaching change, and all of a sudden it's open season for rivals to poach your roster.
Well, that's the world we live in right now. In the late 90s, nobody needed a financial advisor. You could throw darts against the wall, we were told. And then March of 2000 came, and the NASDAQ dropped from 5,100 to 1,100. The Dow was 11,762. It got crushed. Then you needed somebody. What we found out was what we always knew. Customer behavior is more important than anything. If you work in a hospital and you know any emergency room surgeons, when a big 10-car pileup comes in, they're not in there really cracking jokes. It's called gallows humor, but they keep a loose personality about them. Everybody's panicking right now. But these moves by Hugh Freeze are true Hugh Freeze. I know a lot of people that know him. Robert Hill, one of our members at the Cherry Farm, he goes, you forget I played high school football for Hugh Freeze. Y'all all think he's this nice. Well, we're going to just, he goes, he goes, he'll tear your head off. He said he's an intense. He goes, but y'all got to let him do it his way. Y'all told him some things he had to do. I know people that know him really well. And I've been asking them, and they said, Brown, y'all got to get out of his way. And Doug, you are making so many salient points about what he's doing. And I think that the hires, Derek Nix is, again, he's from Etowah County. He knows Mississippi like William Faulkner knows Oxford. This is a ginormous hire. And, I was texting my friend Tim Horton, who was at Auburn for 6 years. He's like, man, and he loves Auburn. He'll always love Auburn. Getting the right coaches in there is important, Doug. And personnel, about assembling staff and all. You're brilliant at that. You run these profiles on people. It's, matchups are big, but matchups on game day are what matter. As much as we all love Pat Dye, you remember his first year. I was in Knoxville. Auburn's playing Tennessee. Ken Hobby's in at quarterback out of Tifton, Georgia. The backfield is Lionel James out of Albany, Georgia. In the wishbone, Willie Howell out of Thomaston, Robert E. Lee High School. And the fullback, Ron O'Neill out of Atlanta Walker County High School, barbecue number 44. Auburn goes the length of the field, gets down to the 4-yard line with a minute left, and can't get off a play. And we're like, what? How'd that work out for Auburn? It worked out pretty well. So the first year, I'm like you, got to hold them accountable. But I think what you're seeing with Hugh Freeze now is the brilliance that you have talked about over and over about keeping calm and looking at the big picture. You're right.
Yeah, and you know, look, in a private setting with an adult beverage at a hunting camp or something, all fans of some team. All of us are fans of some team, so I would be disingenuous to say I didn't relish to a degree that chaos is visiting itself in the great college football town of Tuscaloosa. But Joe, I prefer the gross to call strikes and balls. And I do feel, because it can be any one of our football programs. Coaching changes happen. It's just football is cyclical. And if there's a football brand that's capable of surviving the cyclical nature of it and reloading, they may have some challenges this coming season because the schedule gets tougher. Georgia comes to town. Some of Alabama's natural rivals appear to be improving themselves. But I think the NCAA has got to get control of, and hopefully either Congress or SCOTUS understand that we need some version of the NFL constraints and guardrails, for God's sake, especially on the transfer portal, because right now there's a rule that, and I may misstate it so you can clean it up, that a head football coach cannot hire a high school coach just to get his 5-star quarterback to come along with him. That coach, I think, would have to sit out a year or something like that. And yet Kirby Smart, amid this new hire chaos with DeBoer, Kirby can reach in there and poach T-Rob, who's a great defensive mind, and knowing that there's a good chance, if not a gentleman's agreement up behind the scenes, that Alabama's star defender, Caleb Downs, will quickly be portaling, I predict, pretty quickly over to Georgia because he's so close to his position coach, his coordinator. So the fact that this can happen precipitously, and the incoming coach have his roster, 20, 30+% of it ripped asunder, and he's got to go. And Hugh Freeze had to go through it a year ago because those were self-inflicted wounds in hiring Harsin, and then Harsin himself doing precious little to do roster management and, sequencing it so that you're not caught with a problem like we had a year ago.
Well, when you come in, you're scrambling, and a lot of people are telling you, keep this guy, keep that guy, but you've got to get ultimately your own people in there. It doesn't work when you, just like Nick Saban. I mean, Gary Harris is going to be on with us in about 5 minutes from Tuscaloosa. I hope you'll stay on with us, Doug, because as you know, the Auburn-Alabama rivalry is what it is because we are all intermarried. We work together. The family of 5 is usually 3-2 or 2-3. It's just how it is. That's a cool thing because it creates a lot of interest. I see what's going on at Auburn. The coordinators, Ron Roberts. I like the Charles Kelly hire. Talk about that. He is an Ozark guy. I will say this. There's a family of Auburn folks that I know that I love them, and I respect the hell out of them. They know Charles Kelly really well. And I asked them, why did he go to Colorado? They said, Deion's always been really good to him. And they know a lot. And I'm like, apparently Deion's not a horrible guy. They're like, he's really good to Charles. Charles Kelly will tell you about it. And I said, man, I'd love to get him back. Did you know he was last year the #1 ranked Rivals or 24/7 National College Recruiter of the Year? This guy is going to be fun. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up. I did a disservice not mentioning him because we got focused on the offensive side of the ball with Derek Nix. But I have, I think I'm really excited. It needs to be the right guy, not just a warm body that happened to play for Coach Dye. But I really do. I don't think Charles Kelly has forgotten the life lessons in football, toughness lessons, and accountability lessons of Pat Dye because Kelly played for Dye. And I think if it so happens, which is true, as you said, he's an absolutely serial killer recruiter. So is Derek Nix, and you talk about sending those guys out as closers. Coach Freeze, you don't need to focus every week on recruiting anymore. With these what I see happening is, Rob, Auburn has had too many coaches the last maybe 8 or 10 years that they were either an elite coach developing and scheming, but a poor recruiter, or they were a great recruiter that couldn't coach a lick. And what I see Freeze, we need to see ball played this fall and against good competition, and we'll certainly have that. But I think that we're going to have a head, maybe not every single player, but we're going to have a coaching staff of guys that know how to coach and develop, but oh, by the way, recruit lights out and enjoy recruiting. So I think that if you're an Auburn fan and you mix in with it that Auburn is in the top 5 or 10 in capabilities of NIL funding, that's all Auburn really needed, is to have close to a level playing field. Before Gary joins us, I do want to comment on the inimitable Lane Kiffin's latest tweet yesterday. You know, there's Lane that's funny, and I don't want him to change that. And then there's Lane that, at least for my taste, I'm probably being partisan here, is a tweet that was a little lacking in decorum. And when Derek Nix got this opportunity, come on, Lane, you get a come on, man, on tweeting out in his second paragraph ahead of Auburn's announcement, or Derek Nix's own announcement that he's making a career move that he believes helps him and his family. In Kiffin's second paragraph, he said, acknowledging the opportunity to become a first-time play caller with full-time play calling duties as OC at Auburn, we extend our well wishes to the Nix family in this endeavor. Now, you got to know the backstory. Everybody knows that Hugh Freeze is predominantly going to call plays.
Yeah.
We don't know. Hugh Freeze might not know yet to what extent Nix is going to suggest plays in game and they get run. So for what Kiffin is doing is suggesting that this was an illegitimate hire by Freeze if he's promising that he'll be a play caller when he will be at most a part-time player. I just thought it was below the bar of what I enjoy from Kiffin.
Yeah.
So he's got to be who he is, and I think it hurts his persona in the long run. And I also think it's a factor in why Alabama didn't even talk to Lane Kiffin about their opportunity.
I can't even respond to that. You're so right. There's nothing I can say. I mean, that's a great breakdown of it, because you know what? You wish people well. My wife says that I'm always looking for the good in people. I do. I look for the good. And that's what he needed to have done. Just wish him well. Let's do this, Doug. Let's take a quick commercial breaks from some of our sponsors. Gary Harris is in the bullpen, about ready to jump in with us. We're going to get into this because, man, what's going on in college football every day is what makes college football interesting every day of the year, and we absolutely love it. We'll be right back after this.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight. In this world, the real world, it takes time, dedication, and the right support to achieve your best self. The Vitamin Shop's health enthusiasts are here to make sure you're not wasting a single moment on the wrong supplements. From the highest quality sports nutrition and superfoods to the most sought after trends, you'll find a huge variety of science-backed solutions for every goal. And the people to help guide you along the path to greatness.
Unbelievably, every 2 minutes in our communities, a child is either bought or sold for sex. I am Ari Dickey, board member for the Nashville Anti-Human Trafficking Coalition. Join me and millions of others in our fight against human trafficking and for its victims by helping to educate the most vulnerable among us, our middle and high school students. Go to nhtcoalition.org, become a partner, and help keep our families safe, because none of God's children are for sale.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right, back. Gary Harris is with us, WVUA TV 23 in Tuscaloosa. Also, Tide 100.9 does a great daily sports radio show Monday through Friday. True grit journalism, and one of the good people out there. He knows what off the record and on the record means. Love the conversations that I have with him. And I know, Doug, you've got a few minutes before you got to move on, but hey, free reign and ask away.
Hey, Gary, belated Happy New Year to you. And
thanks.
I said to Rob at the outset of the show, those of us who appreciate what Coach Saban did to impact the stature of the SEC, if we can step away from fandom for a minute, the only response is Godspeed and wishing Coach Saban and Miss Terry just a delightful retirement. I was also telling Rob, I don't think the word retirement really applies to Nick Saban. He's going to do something to be high energy, and I hope it's on ESPN, or maybe he can be commissioner of college football once we deep six the NCAA, which is, in my opinion, about 20 years overdue. My question is a hard one. I'll admit that, and you can pass on the question if you want. But I think there's not a program in America that wouldn't trade with Alabama the last 16 years. And yet you step back from it. This is what happens when there is an elite, greatest of all time head football coach. You can say, well, some of the success arose from the power and just tour de force nature of that personality, which I think is true of Coach Saban. And you can say that without it necessarily detracting from the phenomenal brand that is Alabama football before Nick Saban got there. But if you are athletic director or an advisor to both Coach Saban and DeBoer, which is silly to even say in the case of Coach Saban, how would you advise the delicate, how they work together and that walking that fine line between meddling and impeding the new coach versus the benefits of being there and supporting and helping launch him? Your thoughts on that, Gary?
All right, Doug, a lot to unpack there. Let me kind of backtrack to the top with, what you said about Coach Saban and what he was able to do. And Alabama is an incredible brand and was before he got here. But the truly iconic coaches don't just change a program. I think they change the game for everyone. And I think that's what Nick Saban did. Not only has it been a remarkable, last 16 years, even the first year, the 2007, they were 6-2 until the textbook gate deal hit and kind of derailed that season. It had nothing to do with Coach Saban, but he changed the game. Everything that we see in the modern game of college football from a program standpoint, for the most part, has been, instituted by Nick Saban. Everything that we do in terms of recruiting and the way the programs, the organizations are built with the staff and, starting with GAs and analysts and support personnel and just everything that he did is the blueprint for the modern college football program. So that is remarkable. You just don't see many coaches, very, very few, that have that type of impact, not only on their own team and program and university, but college football as a whole. So you're right. What he accomplished, and I said this to Rob last Thursday morning when this was all very fresh. This program isn't the same program that it was, last Wednesday at 4:00 when he retired. We told the team that and the coaches that he was retiring. It's different, and it was going to be different regardless. Someone has to follow Nick Saban. It's Kalen DeBoer. I'm impressed with the man. I think he's an excellent football coach. But there is going to be, and I see fans, just panicking about the portal and what's happening. Regardless of who followed him, there's going to be some fallout. This is not the same program that it was 8 days ago. It's just not. And to think that it is naive. And the roster is not going to be the same as it would have been if Nick Saban were returning as the head coach. So this is going to be a different team and a different program going forward, beginning immediately. As far as advice, if I were the AD with Coach DeBoer, I don't know, Doug, that I would give him any advice in that regard. I think that's something the head coach has to decide for himself. He came out at the press conference and said, I'm going to lean on Nick Saban. I think Nick Saban, right now, he and Miss Terry are taking some vacation time. He'll have a office in the stadium, which I think is perfect. He's close, but he's not in the football building. I think he will make himself available, but I don't think he is going to be that guy that's over there knocking on Coach DeBoer's door every day. Hey, Kalen, this is what I got for you today. I think he will make himself available, but I think it'll be up to Coach DeBoer how he wants to use that resource, the resource being Nick Saban. And I don't think that's the athletic director's job to tell him that. I think Coach DeBoer knows Nick Saban's situation. He knows he's there. And he said he'll lean on him. I think for Greg Byrne in this situation, Doug and Rob, I do think, and I'm already seeing examples of this, there's going to be some athletic department staff changes. They've not been announced yet, but they're already happening because I like Greg Byrne. Greg Byrne is an excellent athletics director. I think how he conducts coaching searches is the way that all these ADs should do it. Don't get a consulting firm or a search firm involved. Don't get you do it yourself. You keep focused on the goal and you go do it. So I think he's excellent. But when Nick Saban is your head football coach and you come in after Nick Saban was hired, I think it's safe to say that Nick Saban runs the football program for the most part. And that doesn't mean he doesn't respect Greg Byrne. That doesn't mean that he, didn't use Greg Byrne, and Greg Byrne is the AD. But I think Greg Byrne understood football's fine. Football's good. I think with Nick Saban leaving, this is an opportunity for Greg Byrne now to kind of reshape the football aspect of the department and make some changes that he probably feels like he needs to make and have more involvement. Kalen DeBoer is his guy. He hired Kalen DeBoer. And let's just be honest, the way this works, they're attached at the hip now. And if it goes south for Kalen DeBoer, it's probably going to go south for Greg Byrne to some extent. So I think Greg Byrne will be an incredible resource for Kalen DeBoer, but I don't think he is going to say, hey, you need to use Coach Saban in this regard. I think he'll let Coach DeBoer do that on his own.
Gary, I don't know if anybody, if this were a baseball pitch you swung at, it was 300 feet out of the ball. Very good.
Yeah. I mean, and Doug, that was a great series of questions. And Gary, your answer is brilliant. I mean, how much can you go to Nick Saban? I mean, he's bigger than life, really. Kalen DeBoer's got to be his own man. And what I love, Doug, about Gary is that he has been there a long time and he's seen coaching changes come and go. But I think that answer was great. Kalen DeBoer is just, again, he has to create his own identity. And if he were to be seen going in and out of Nick Saban's office, that, he's running the business now. That's just what it is. I love that answer.
I think the stereotype that a lot of fans, and it's probably more rivals of Alabama than good high IQ Alabama fans, the conventional wisdom was, the prior coach who was a legend and the GOAT can't resist himself, he's going to have to hang around and relive the glory days. I don't think that's Nick Saban. I think Gary's right. Saban is smart enough and self-aware to know that if that were me, I would want to be able to communicate with the prior legendary head coach, alienate your fan base if you're too severed from it. But I don't think Saban himself would allow it to become unhealthy.
Yeah.
I agree. Yeah, absolutely. I think Coach Saban understands very well the situation with him retiring and what it means going forward. And you're right, Doug. He wants to let the new coach establish his program, but he'll be there if needed. And I do think he's going to help in a lot of ways that we won't see, whether it be in fundraising or just other administrative areas, because he's an incredible organizer. We know that. I mean, the process and organization wise, he's maybe the best to ever do it. So he'll be a valuable resource for Kalen DeBoer, I have no doubt. But I can already tell, being here, feet on the ground in Tuscaloosa on the University of Alabama campus, that he is going to Coach Saban is going to allow Coach DeBoer to build his own program.
Yeah.
Rob, guys, I'm going to get out of the way. Y'all have a good day.
Thanks, man.
Hey, great stuff, Doug, as always. Thank you so much. Gary, it's interesting. You think about the impact these coaches have on us. You and I are the same age. I mean, Coach Dye, Coach Bryant, Coach Jordan, these guys, the way they came up, they were just, when they walked in the room, everybody was quiet. You think about Coach Jordan and Coach Bryant, what they had seen in World War II. Shug had been fighting Rommel in North Africa, landed at Sicily, was wounded 6 June 1944 by an 88 millimeter frag. I hit him in the shoulder, storming Omaha Beach. 4 days later, he goes to get medical help. And a sidebar to that, I read this book, Rich Donnell, autobiography on Shug Jordan. He said, I walked in to the tent hospital and they said, "Captain, why didn't you get help?" He said, "Well, I had a job to do. I'm an engineer. I'm from, we got to get that road built so we can get our boys up there and get this war won so I can get back home to Alabama." And what I remember too is he said he almost bled to death on the operating table because his surgeon was from Mobile and was an Auburn fan. And they got to talking about the 1942 Auburn win over number 1 Georgia in Columbus, Georgia at the time, 27-13. It's a small world, but these were men. Coach Bryant is from Arkansas, and he's as loved over here as he is in Alabama. And you're right. Coach Saban, I don't care who you're a fan of. I got friends of every school you can imagine, Gary, that go out of their way to go to Tuscaloosa just to go to Mass at the Saban Student Catholic Center. That says a lot about it. You're right. It's way beyond football. I don't care who you're a fan of. He has made the game, the analyst, the GA. A GA is no longer just somebody making $5,000 a year trying to bum food off the students in the cafeteria. It's a position that everybody wants. And again, whoever you're a fan of, you got to think about what Nick Saban did. At the same time, Kalen DeBoer got to be his own man. Have you had a chance to talk to him? Because if they don't talk to the local media, to me, I just don't think that's smart on their part.
Well, a couple things on that. No, I haven't. I met him at the introductory press conference, and he did a Q&A with broadcast media, which includes, of course, myself, and then he did a Q&A with print and, .coms and that type of thing. I have talked to a reporter in Seattle that told me that Coach DeBoer is one of the most media-friendly coaches that you're ever going to be around. He is accessible, very much so to the local media, and did let people into practice and made his coordinators available. Now, and I have been told nothing but great things about him as a person. Yeah. Alabama now, we'll see if that continues here. Not because of Coach DeBoer, but I think Alabama's got a system in place that does not allow media into practice and does not make coordinators available. And I know that you say, well, that's under Coach Saban, but I know Alabama oftentimes when there's a system in place, they'll say, hey, this is the way we do it here. I'll be interested to see if the media access that he granted at Washington continues at Alabama, Rob. I will be. But no, I have not really had a chance to talk with him other than, like I said, sitting in a Q&A. And, I have put in a request for a one-on-one interview with him. But I understand that's going to be a while. Listen, this guy hasn't stopped. You got to think about it. You're in Seattle, Washington on a Thursday. Thursday night, you're in Seattle, Washington on a Friday. Friday night, you're in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. Saturday, you're being introduced at a press conference, and then boom, you're hiring a staff. Your wife is out with Regina Byrne looking at houses while you're in the office and you're going nonstop and you're interviewing players and coaches. I mean, I understand Sunday morning he was in the facility early that morning and he was still there until late Sunday night. And that's a Sunday. So I don't think that right now, local meeting with local media and reporters is on the agenda, but I do hope that it will be once things settle down a little bit. And as much as everyone respects Coach Saban and appreciates what Coach Saban did, when it came to local media, there was very little access granted. That's a fact. I mean, there was access granted to some of the national guys. Obviously, when they came in, they got to go to practice and they got to go in his office and talk with him and visit with him. But very rarely did that happen with local media. We were not allowed to practice. He granted very few one-on-one interviews. Now, as you know, I got to guest on his, do a guest spot on his radio show. Not every year, but out of the 17 years he was here, I probably was on there, 11, 12 times, which I enjoyed that. And a lot of the local media got to, do that, and they enjoyed that. But he did not grant very much access, and we are hoping that that's going to be different with Coach DeBoer. But I know that, I can imagine Alabama will also sit Coach down and say, all right, let's discuss the media policy. And this is kind of the way we like to do things. And if you allow the local media too much access, they're going to be, all the time wanting something. So I imagine they're going to try to curb his enthusiasm a little bit in that regard, but we'll see. He may just say, hey, well, this is the way I like to do it. So it'll be interesting to see what the media policy is with Coach Kalen DeBoer.
Yeah. And, he's from South Dakota. I've spent a lot of time walking the fields and the draws and the hills up there pheasant hunting. Those are great people up there. They're and what's funny is the people up in Iowa and South Dakota for years of pheasant hunting with them. They grow up watching SEC football. I guarantee you, he knows a lot about Alabama. It's just like when you go to New York, and one of the wholesalers I worked with one of the money management firms for a long time, Al Barbaro, was from Boston. He said, look, I grew up in Boston with guys like Joey Alfonso, Joey Bag of Donuts, Billy Savetti. He goes, but we had the New England Sports Network, and they had tape delayed a lot of SEC football. He goes, there were kids in my neighborhood that were Auburn fans, Alabama. He goes, I have been a Vol for life since 5th grade. He moved down to Alabama. That was where he was based out of, married a girl from Prattville, and they've been season ticket holders for over 20 years in Alabama. So I think Kalen DeBoer, it's just getting to know the people, but my deal with the local media is I'm going to predict that in the next few years, you're going to start seeing a return to spending more time with the local media. Because if you don't, you're crazy. And remember the days, Still Waters, Dye would do his thing. Alabama coaches would do their things, playing cards, having drinks, getting to know them. But also, Gary, how invaluable was it when you could go to practice, pull out your Sterno notepad and take notes and then talk about it on Tider Insider TV with Rodney Orr and all. I think we're going to go back to that.
Well, it helped. There's no doubt about it. I don't know, Rob. I don't. I think there may be more access granted. I don't see the days of the media weekends retreats that they used to have, just simply because I don't think coaches are going to, give up that time. I just don't know. I could be wrong, and you might be right. I don't see that. I think those are gone. In fact, I don't know that anybody does them anymore. It was used to be common, as you said, with all the coaches in the SEC. I remember when I first moved to Mississippi, Billy Brewer had his down on the Gulf Coast. And of course, as you said, Coach Dye had his at Stillwater Resort in Dadeville, and the Alabama coaches would do it either at Indian Hills or North River. But, the coaches' time is now just so valuable. I can't see them committing to that. But, maybe they will. But as far as the other things that you said, I do think that there needs to be and I think it would be good for everyone if the local media is allowed to have more involvement going forward in these programs. It's funny how it works. Like I said, Coach Saban's kind of set the blueprint for so much of what we do. And so when other coaches are looking at the blueprint for Alabama football, one of the things they see is limited media access.
Yeah.
So what do they say? Well, we don't have time for this media. So, it works for Coach Saban. Well, so really all over the league now, it's very limited. It's very limited at Georgia. It's very limited at Auburn. It's very limited at Ole Miss. It's most of these schools, you have your press conferences. Some have a viewing period at practice, but that's even getting rare. So it's already to the point now where for it to go back to what it was, it would be in an about face. And I just don't see these coaches and these programs doing that.
Yeah, Gary, I know you're on a tight schedule this morning. And as always, thank you so much for sharing your time with us. It means the world to us, our listeners and viewers. We get so many people love it when you and Rodney are on, but you genuinely know what you're talking about. That's for damn sure. But you are you're first class.
How much snow did y'all get up in Memphis, Rob?
6 inches. I think some areas got more. We were all over Memphis yesterday, and I ended up at my parents at about 4:30 or 5, dropping off vodka and wine so they could survive, And I'm like, man, I mean, the streets, all the major streets are still covered in snow.
Wow.
And I'm talking the heavy one. So we got more sleet starting here in about 30 minutes.
Oh,
but
wow.
Hey, I love it. It's funny.
Yeah,
we got duck season. Yeah, it's still time to kill some ducks, so we're having fun.
Yeah.
Hey, we'll get into basketball more, but Auburn and Alabama, big matchup coming up next Wednesday.
Yeah, next Wednesday night, and Alabama's got to go to Tennessee on Saturday. That'll be a good one. But they're playing well in that non-conference schedule. While it hurt their record, it obviously helped get them ready for league play. Hey, thanks, Rob.
Hey, you bet. Take care. We'll talk to you next week. All right, Matt Dean going to join us here in just a minute from over in Memphis. But, man, I've been watching a lot of college basketball. And I want to get into this with Matt Dean when he comes on here in a minute. Dino Hoops. He really knows the college basketball scene. But the SEC, 3 straight years, in the last 3 years, either Auburn or Alabama has won the conference. Kentucky looking a lot better. Without skipping a beat, let's go to, as Kevin Skarbinski, always give credit where it's due. You'll get everything in life that you want if you don't mind who gets the credit. That's a great quote. My friend Vince Thompson, who owns Melt Media, Entertainment, Leisure, and Travel over in Buckhead, I used to work with him. He's from Chatham, Alabama, Washington County. That is what you call L.A., Lower Alabama. But I remember he wrote it in one of Vince's books. He's one of the greatest branders. He does the Final Four, NCAA Final Four, all of Nick Saban's Aflac ads and everything. And Vince talked to the Woodruff family. It's the big family with Coca-Cola, one of the big Coca-Cola families in Atlanta. And he said, you'll get everything you want out of life as long as you don't mind who gets the credit. But give Kevin Skarbinski credit for that term he came up with last week. Hoop heads. Guys, you think Matt Dean knows a lot about football? Holy shnikes. Basketball. This guy is, man, he's got about 20 TVs probably going. But when watching a lot of SEC basketball, last night I thought I was going to get to watch Bill Walton, I think USC in Arizona last night, and it was already over. But get your thoughts right now on this college basketball season. Big 10, ACC, SEC, Big 12, Big East, AAC. Who's the best?
Good morning, Rob. Good to be with you. I will answer that question this way. I think we're heading into a March, and I think we felt this way last year a little bit, Rob.
Yeah.
Where I can make a case that 12 to 15 teams can get to the Final Four. So who's the best right now is going to be different maybe than who's the best in a month. I will tell you, you've got to be excited about your Auburn Tigers. 15-2, 4-0 in the SEC, another big win last night. I know there's the 24th. Is that next Wednesday they play Bama? Is that correct?
Yeah, next Wednesday in Tuscaloosa.
And right now they're the only 2 undefeated teams left in the SEC. That shows you after 4 games how much parity there is. But the reality is in the SEC, you take Auburn, Bama, Kentucky is really good. I think Tennessee has found an offensive answer for the first time in a while. This Connect kid transfer from Northern Colorado, I believe he had back-to-back 35-point games for the Vols. And I don't want to miss, as a Big Ten guy, Purdue's really good, right? But here's my problem with Purdue. It's a little bit like the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs, right? You just because you go 12-5 in the regular season 3 straight years, at some point you got to win some playoff games. Purdue has to prove it to me in March. In the last couple of years, they've disappointed. You know, when you look at the depth of the college basketball right now, there's a lot of good basketball being played. I mean, the University of Memphis, top 10 in the country right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people, not just Tiger fans, believe that they could make a run this year.
Yeah.
And last year, you know, a lot of people were very disappointed with their loss in the first game to FAU, a game that they led late. You can make an argument they should have won that game. FAU ended up going to the Final Four. So I'm excited for how this is going to play out. Now, on the flip side, you know, I still think, you know, the Big 12 has some really good basketball teams in it. Do I think that the Big 10, Purdue, is going to be there in the Final Four? I think there's a great chance. I'm just telling you, Rob, I'm not convinced right now that there is a clear 4 or 5. I mean, if you look at like some of the things like, you know, even North Carolina's 4th right now in the AP top 25, right? I've not watched much North Carolina, though I will tell you they've got some pretty good wins on their resume. So I'm still looking right now. It's early. I'm looking at matchups. I'm looking at strengths and weaknesses. I'm going to have to watch that Bama game next week with Auburn to kind of see where both those teams are at.
Yeah.
You know, Bama has had, you know, some influx. It looks like of some good young talent. And honestly, I think I don't know if you talked about it. The incident happened the other night when Nate Oates kind of put his hand on another player. I thought that was really a big time no-no. I can't see myself ever putting a hand on another player to stop an incident. I may get in the middle of them, you know, but that's absorb the punch myself, right? But no, to answer the question, Rob, who's the best right now? I'd still probably say UConn, defending national champion.
Yeah.
Is right is as good as anyone in the country right now. I would say that.
Well, looking at it, you know, top 5 in basketball. You said you don't even think you could do that. There's 12 or 15 that could win the whole championship. I want to get into 2 subjects: Chris Beard at Ole Miss in the first year, and LSU, Matt McMahon, what they're doing. I just texted Coach John Brady, who is the color analyst on the LSU Basketball Network, to see if he can be on the show with us tomorrow morning. But that's one hell of a job they're doing, considering they basically got the death penalty. And this is they're 3-1 now in the SEC, and they beat an Ole Miss team last night that's pretty good. Let's talk about both of those teams. Yeah.
Well, let's just talk about Chris Beard for a second. I know people that know him really well. Okay, I've never met Coach, but I have I have someone that is someone that communicates with him on a week-to-week basis. Let's say, right?
Yep.
Chris Beard is part of the Bobby Knight tree, if I'm not mistaken, back in the day. Is as fine as basketball coach. I'm not talking about everything else. You know, I know he went through some stuff off the floor, but it doesn't shock me that Ole Miss is better. Now, does it shock me that I think they're maybe 15-2 right now? Yeah, that kind of shocks me. You know, now they have lost a couple SEC games to Tennessee and LSU, but right now, you mentioned LSU. What a tremendous job. I think they, like you said, they're 3-1 in the SEC. Can they sustain it when they go on the road more in the SEC? We'll find out, because I think that's one of the things that I will tell you through my years of coaching. Road wins, when you're a really good and borderline elite team, it doesn't bother you to travel. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What would hurt sometimes when you're that team that's pretty good and you play well at home, That sometimes on the road, if you don't have everything in order, and that old cliche, does your defense should always travel? Well, I mean, this, Rob. You've been at many venues as a fan of basketball. You're right on top of the guys and gals, right? You're right there. Football's a little different, man. When you have a really good offensive line, defensive line, you don't care where you play. Let's line up in the parking lot. I'm gonna kick your butt, right? Yeah. Basketball, if I guard you and I have someone that can make shots and I can get the ball inside and get to the foul line late, that's problematic. But what happens is on the road, sometimes those things don't go your way. I've always felt like basketball officials, I don't want to use the word influenced, but sometimes on the road with the crowd, you wonder sometimes, the percentages of calls you get compared to home. And it's just it's a different beast. And you play so many games in basketball compared to football just once a week that, you'll go through a stretch in your schedule where you have that 3 games in a row and on the road and maybe, 3 games in 7 days. It's very difficult because basically you don't have a lot of practice time, right? You're playing, you're traveling, you're playing, you're traveling. And when you're traveling, you're trying to get workouts in and watch a lot of tape. Point guard play to me as a former head coach, as someone who's been 3 decades in college basketball. If you don't have that quarterback, it's a lot like football. I mean, and we can define what a quarterback is. That every coach may have a different view of what they want their point guard to do. For me, it doesn't necessarily have to do anything with scoring. My biggest thing in the game of basketball has always been the turnover margin stat. If I find a way to get more possessions than you, Rob, then I don't have to shoot as good as percentage to beat you. That's a math problem. Yeah. But to get to that point, there are ways to disguise when teams give you pressure to not turn it over. And that's usually, though, that's, coaches drive that, but man, you got to have someone that has the guts late in the game, in a tie game, when pressure's being applied to get you into the offense to run the right play.
Yeah. And here it is, Kerry J up in Lebanon, Tennessee, showdown in the jungle this Saturday night. Beards, Johnny Rebs come to the Plains to play Bruce Pearl. Those are 2 similar coaches. Intense. They're going to get every ounce of talent. They're going to get it out of you. They don't use that word potential because that means you got talent. A lot of coaches will tell you, and I believe this, that you're not using. That's going to be a hell of a matchup. It will. Ben Troupe's going to be on with us in about 10 minutes. We got a lot to cover today. But as a basketball coach, as someone who can break it down and take all the minutia, I like you to do this every week when you're on here. Sometimes you're on more than once. I love it. But we talked about the triangle and 2 and the shuffle and roll and all like that. And when I'm watching basketball, and I watch a lot of it, I love it. It just seems like everything, you're kicking the ball out to the perimeter to try to get a 3. And if you get that rare inside look, you take it. And go back 20 years ago. Everybody wanted a 7-foot or above center, and you threw it to him in the middle, and he just tried to lob it in. Now it's a perimeter game, and the rebound stats, they're really funny. When you shoot a lot of threes, if you're good at getting rebounds out on the perimeter, you get a lot of follow-up shots. But talk about, let's say just in the SEC, what is the typical offense that you see? Because to me, most of them look like the same offense.
Rob, it's interesting that you say that. So back in the 80s when I played a little bit, before the 3-point line, it was a different game, right? We have a saying when I coach my teams, 3 is greater than 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Simple math problem. So you're going to get, number 1 rule is thou shalt contest every shot. So if you're out there and you got the ball beyond 3, Rob, we're going to make you put it on the floor. We want you to come in. The best thing that can happen to me, Rob, is if you got the ball and you're beyond the arc, is for you to dribble 1 time and pull up and shoot an 18, 19-footer. I'll be like, great, I've accomplished my goals. This is one of the furthest distant 2-point shots you can get. It's not an easy shot. A lot of kids don't practice mid-range much anymore. I still work out individuals with post players, and we do a lot of short corner mid-range stuff just to have it in our arsenal, if that makes sense. But like for me, I've always been a big believer in tempo. And what I mean by that is, can we control tempo? So you've seen a lot of influence of the dribble drive over the last 15 years, where you have spacing and you have people that drive hard, put their head down, go to the basket, trying to draw help, kick out for shots, right? And it's really hard to defend. We can space that out with what I call help and recover, but because they put multiple shooters on the floor, sometimes it's really difficult in the recovery mode. So a lot of times when I would see that open dribble drive look, that when I say open, it means the post player is really not there. So it's an open post situation, right? It's more 5 out with dribble drive action and attacking the rim. A lot of times we'd say, okay, you know what? You go play that way. I'm going to sit there in the zone because I can take away anything to the rim and I have less recovery to your shooters, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And early in my career, I was very stubborn. I'd be like, no, we're gonna play man 40 minutes a game. I'm gonna man you off the bus. It's gonna be man. As I got older, I felt like changing defenses was a better successful philosophy for me. You get a lot of coaches, young coaches in interview, they're gonna say, we're gonna play fast. We're gonna play fast.
Yeah.
But you know what playing fast does, Rob, in my opinion, it leads you to more turnovers. What was the very first thing I told you in this conversation? I don't want to turn over the basketball, right?
Yeah.
So
thou shalt not turn over the basketball.
Right. So it's like, how do you want to play? If you're going to play fast, you're going to do some things that are going to be reckless at times, but you're going to break down the opposing team and hopefully get easy offense. You're going to get some shots near the rim. If you can make those shots and you get to the foul line, you'll be very successful. So another thing that, I've always talked about is transition defense. We've always got a player, sometimes two, assigned to, when the ball goes up, your butt's already going back towards defending the goal, right? And that's just been my philosophy because I now, we're going to contest every shot and we're not going to give up layups. But yet, we're going to run you off the three-point line. Those are the three things for me. I know I'm kind of being a little bit winded here. But those are the three things for me. If you can do, you're going to have a chance, home or away, to be successful. And the last thing I'll say is when you get in foul trouble, especially on the road, it's tough if you lose your top defender or two, because then you may have a lineup out there that is not your premier defensive lineup. And that should probably be a cue where early on, we got to be smart. We got to be aggressive. We can't be making stupid fouls. But those are things that really hurt you when you're trying to control tempo of the game.
Yeah. Matt, I'll go ahead and ask you now. Getting an echo in here. I don't know what that is. But can you join us tomorrow morning again at 8:30? Coach John Brady just acknowledged, yes, sir. He can come on tomorrow at 8:30. I want to get you on there. This will be an awesome basketball discussion. If you can stay on from 8:30 to 9, he is going to be on with us. Can you do it?
I will try. Now, here's my situation. My wife flies in from Florida today. As you know, in Memphis, we got a lot of weather situation going. So I'm going to be taking her to work the next few days till it gets a little better. So I'm kind of TBD right now, but I would love to be on with Coach Brady. He's phenomenal.
It's like the college football schedules for everybody in America now. TBD, TBA.
Well,
you're right,
Rob. This has been, and this is partially what we know about this part of the country. We got 6 inches of snow at my house.
Yeah.
I haven't seen a snow plow in a week, but that's here nor there. When other people have this in different parts of the country, they are prepared. We are never prepared. So we've been out of school all week at Rhodes. We've been working remote.
Yeah. Well, look, Audrey and I were in Memphis. I've got an F-150, it's 4-wheel drive. The only reason you get a truck and it's not 4-wheel drive is if you're a painter or an exterminator, and then you get a white truck that go with that. Right. But I've got a F-150 with the all-terrain tires and all, and no problems. But still, you don't drive like an idiot. It's
Right.
the people that come down from Boston or New York or Philadelphia to Atlanta or Memphis. Think, oh, this is no big deal. Still use your brain. But we had a lot of stuff for work yesterday. We ended up taking Wolf River Boulevard from Germantown Parkway after a trip to Costco, which was not bad. It was hardly anybody there.
Right.
We ended up going out Wolf River Boulevard from Germantown Parkway all the way to Hewlett and Dunn Boot and Clothing Company on the historic square in Collierville, Tennessee, and snow the entire way. And over here in Arkansas, we're back and forth, Memphis and Parkin, 30 minutes from downtown Memphis. I mean, you can see the lights of Memphis. It's really cool. Highway 64, which is the big artery, and I-40 are blowing and going. We had to go to Stuttgart Sunday and again Tuesday. Right. The interstate, but you get on the side roads, it's brutal. Memphis, it seems like a lot more than 6 inches of snow. Now we're getting some freezing rain this morning. Meteorologist Matt Dean in the Sidelines Weather Center, but it affects a lot of stuff going on. Pearl and Beard coach defense. I want to get your thoughts real quick. They're not the only ones that do, but Bruce Pearl and Chris Beard both look like that they want to get out there and suit up and play. All right. I don't see them putting a hand on anyone. I didn't get into that with Nate Oates. I mean, that's, stupid. You don't do that. You don't put your hands on them. You don't put your hands on a cop either. Not in my day, or you're going to be at the med and getting a reconstructive dental surgery. But I'm looking here at defense. When you've got guys, Auburn's got 11 or 12 guys that can play. Look at Penny Hardaway at the University of Memphis. I mean, my goodness. 13 of the 14 guys on that roster, I'm not sure who they are. I'm being silly, but the fans will tell you that's all new guys, but they're playing together. But I want to talk about why it's neglected. And a lot of coaches say they just don't teach defense, because that hustle pays off, going and diving for balls and making extra effort. A team gets tired of you pounding on them for 40 minutes.
It's interesting. A lot of people don't know this, but Bruce Pearl is in the Tom Davis coaching tree. Bruce Pearl was an assistant for Tom Davis at the University of Iowa when Iowa had some really successful teams. And Dr. Tom used to run a lot of what we call diamond and one full court, right? So they're going to go to the press. They're going to trap the first pass. They're going to try to take away the reversal sometimes. And then whoever's that person in the middle, if they can sprint and anticipate the fleck, they're going to steal and go with it, So however you want to phrase what coach is doing these days, you hit on the head, man. He's in a stance. He's sweating on the sidelines. His teams play extremely hard. They can pick you up in a full court situation. They can guard you in a half court situation, and they buy into his philosophy. And I think that's part of the greatness going all the way back to these successful coaches, is that whatever your philosophy is, you get your guys to buy in. We had a saying before we left the floor, play hard, play smart, play together for 40 minutes. It's a pretty good way to break it down. You play hard, we're talking about defense. We're going to get back in transition. We're going to beat our person to the spot, keep them out of the middle of the floor. Play smart. Let's not turn it over, right? Let's not turn it over. Make good decisions, right? And then play together. We're going to share the basketball. We're not going to take a lot of bad shots. Now, we're going to define those things in practice, what we deem a good and bad shots. Like Rob, I got to tell you, we come down, we got a 3-2 break, and we kick it out to a shooter. If they're open, I expect that shot to go up, So some people are like, oh, it's a quick shot. Well, you know what? If it's an open shot, I don't care how quick it is in the 30-second sequence. You may turn the damn thing over 20 seconds later, take that open look, and either make it or go get it, right? And there's Mr. Ben Troupe.
Yeah, Big Ben's on here with us right now. And, a little bit of trivia here on Sidelines. Savannah, Georgia is America's first grid city. I think it is. They planned it out like everything is squared off. It's a cool city. I know Maury Gaston, one of our favorites, is one of our board of advisors, is over in Savannah right now. He said he's watching the show at his hotel. Big Ben in Savannah from, of course, Swainsboro. Went to high school in Augusta. But Ben, last night, Audrey, we were booking the show when we got back from Memphis. Man, and it's like we got 6 or 7 inches of snow over there, and it's still everywhere. It was 3. It's warmed up to 28 this morning. It's a lot different than 3 yesterday. But Ben, got to say, man, she goes, what do we call it? Go Gators. It's not ESPN Coastal anymore. So I said, well, put on there. I was going to say Pastor Ben Troupe, but then people might think this is the 700 Club. I don't know what to say. Hey, send in 1995 and put your hand on the television set, and I'll cure all them warts and cankers and them doggy ears that you got. No, how do we want to start saying it? Because you can do so many things. Like Matt is Dino Hoops. That's his Twitter handle. So what should we say now? Your podcast is about to start. Is that how you want to go by?
Listen, Ben Troupe, shoot. I mean, hey, friend of the podcast, media personality. Just listen, call me the greatest uncle in the world. I challenge any uncle out there to that uncle status. But no, I mean, just podcaster, former Florida Gator. You know what? You Rob Browne, man. Whatever you want to call me, it's fine with me. It really don't. I'm not as many titles as God has blessed me to have. I don't care about none of them. I mean, the fact that I get to come on here, and I tell my mama all the time. I say, Mama, I do my best to embarrass you every day. I look for every reason to embarrass you, because in her mind, I'm a direct reflection of her. No matter what I do. Yeah. If I go somewhere, grown man, gave my mom 3 kids. You think that's enough? No, gave her 3 grandkids. That's not enough. Cut your hair, make sure you groom. So for me, I know I represent former athletes from a standpoint of telling them being yourself is going to get you much farther than being something you're not. Because when you play a sport, you in your mind, you thinking, I got to be something different. And coach, you go, I never told you to be something different. I told you we play this way. This is our concept. This is our scheme. This is how we play. And the great listen, I mean, at the end of the day, Brian Dawkins is one of my favorite football players to ever have played against or watched. And I live by his mantra. He'll say, all I want is all you got. That's me. I'm going to give you all I got, no matter what it is, no matter what capacity it is, only because that's all I got anyway. I don't want to be like with Ben. If you would have just gave this, I mean, I was just in an MLK parade on Monday with my kids and my nonprofit, the Uncommon Crew, and we walking down the street, and all these people looking at them, and we throwing out candy, giving candy, different things. Most of these kids have never been celebrated like that. They don't know how to take it. And I told them, you're not in this parade so people can see you. You in the parade so you can see them. You see how many it is? Yep. That's how big the need is. So the form of this and author that and speaker this and podcaster that, I laugh, Rob, because none of it had to be. I'm just a country, but like I say, 2 things for me. Shade trees and sweet tea for life. Like that's gonna be me for life. So anything outside of that is bonus anyway.
It is, and that's the thing about it. I just said he's just Ben Troupe. I mean, because we've had you on now a couple of years, and it's like Matt. I just say Coach Matt Dean, Ben Troupe, because yes, you're a Gator and you played for the Titans, Tampa Bay, the Oakland Raiders. You got to meet Al Davis in his jumpsuit. By the way, those things would go on an auction for it's a lot of money.
Well, but don't do that. Let's Raiders fans. He didn't say it's gonna go on. I know they heard it's not gonna. Listen, the reason why it's not gonna go on is because Mark Davis got to bring it to you, and ain't nobody trying to deal with that. That haircut right there, people, lets you know I don't care about nothing.
Yeah, he looks like Lloyd Christmas, Matt Dean. Hey, I want to get into a little bit of NFL football. Last week, Sonia Lewis, one of our viewers over in Parkin, works for the city. She's really cool and unbelievable cook. She's a big Patriots fan. I'm going to start with you, Matt, and get into a little bit of this stuff. The NFL playoffs are a hell of a lot of fun to watch. I mean, Ben played in the league for 5 years. You watch in, Kansas City. This weekend, Patrick Mahomes has to go to Orchard Park. And like David Schultz, who's from right outside of Oswego, right outside of Syracuse, He said, Buffalo gets snow. Orchard Park gets blizzards. That's going to be an awesome atmosphere up there Saturday or Sunday when they play in the playoffs. Mahomes having to go on the road. What do you think is going to happen? You first, Matt, and then I'm going to go to Ben.
So I think, Ben, this is the first time in Patrick Mahomes' career he's had to play a playoff game on the road. And you know, as a former NFL alumni, man, that's a tough environment. Elimination game on the road with the Bills Mafia. You know, I follow pro football a lot, and this year Kansas City has survived, but it's not been the normal offense. They've had a lot of drops, and Travis Kelce's had a lot of drops. Okay, and I mean that's part of football, but I mean there is a stat out there they have maybe the highest percentage of drops. I do think I love the way Isaiah Pacheco runs. Their running back, second-year guy out of Rutgers. He's hard-nosed. He's fast. I watched him play in college because Rutgers is part of the Big Ten, and unfortunately I'm an Iowa fan. I do think I love Josh Allen. Buffalo's defense, if you watch the Pittsburgh game, they got banged up. They got a lot of guys that got tweaked and concussion protocol. I think it's a close game, but I'm going to go with Josh Allen. I love Josh Allen. Now he is turnover prone, Ben, and that's a knock on him. But I think he gets over the hump. Now the reality is, in my opinion, Ben, whoever wins this game, I still think it's Lamar Jackson's year. I think Baltimore is going to get to the Super Bowl, and even if it's San Francisco, I know it would be a potential rematch because San Francisco is really good, but they handled the 49ers really pretty good at the Bay Area. I'm going to go Baltimore, but I think Buffalo wins on Saturday or Sunday whenever it's played.
And you know what? Josh Allen, you know where he played football? College, University of Wyoming. 7,300 feet there in Laramie. They also have the High Altitude Performance Center where they study altitude and its effect on people. Ben, I love college football. There's nothing like it. I really love pro football when you get into these playoffs. And everything around here is frozen. I mean, it's locked up. We're going to hunt this weekend every way we can, but we're going to be watching a lot of pro football. And, you know, I saw something the other night watching Miami against Kansas City. Those Miami players were distraught. Even though they're making a lot of money, they were hurt. But, you know, I got to say, growing up, that Miami brand, the Dolphins, you know, because Memphis had the World Football League, the Grizzlies brought Zonka, Kick, and Warfield to Memphis. Having the Dolphins winning again is pretty damn cool. But they didn't win the other day, you know, against Kansas City. But Buffalo, that Bills Mafia, when they played down at Miami a couple of weeks ago, they took over down there. How crazy is that fan base?
Oh, Buffalo might have the most, you know, rabbits. I mean, the biggest fan base, the biggest and most dedicated, unfortunately for the NFL, is Dallas. Dallas fan base it gets on your nerves how big it is. But you talk about like loyal, it's hard to find anybody more loyal than Bills Mafia. And the one thing that Josh Allen understood is if I'm going to beat Patrick Mahomes, the quote new Manning and Tom Brady type thing, and yes, and make no mistake about it, Pat Mahomes, he is Brady. And like I said, Josh Allen is Manning. I got to do it at home because I need everything going in my favor. Number one, I got to have the better cast. I do. I got to have the better team. I do. I do not have the better coach, but I got to have the home field advantage. And I think the thing about Josh Allen is he's going to have to not be as much as himself as you mentioned, Coach Dean. He will turn the – look, sometimes Buffalo is good enough to win in spite of Josh Allen, but not against the Kansas City they won't. He make the same mistakes he's done in the past. They will lose because of that. But when you talk about what they've given Josh Allen with the running game, you know, the other Cook, you know, Dalvin Cook's little brother, you see what he's doing right now. You know, you see what Bills. My very first game in the National Football League in the preseason was in Buffalo. It was in the preseason, and you would have thought it was a regular season. It was that stadium was packed. And the thing about snow in Buffalo, Orchard Park, they don't care. They're like, look, man, we want the most. Buffalo don't want that moving game because, listen, conditions are a part of it. Ain't no domes up here. Yeah. Kansas City and Buffalo have one thing in common, snow. but it's a different kind of snow. I played in Buffalo to where it was great condition because it was in the fall. I was in Kansas City when they had a 120-foot like heated blanket over the whole field, and they pulled it off, and the field still froze. The field still froze, but what I like the most about Patrick Mahomes is he keeps everybody honest. I don't care who you are in the AFC.
Yeah.
If you can't beat me, you can't win. And that's what I like about Kansas City. They're not the team they used to be, but they understand how to win. They ran the gauntlet. They understand that Travis Kelce, I don't think he's going to look like he's look. I think a mad Travis Kelce, yes, it's going to be a Taylor Swift sighting. If she's anywhere in the building, get over it. She's going to be, but I think the thing about a guy like Andy Reid, and he doesn't get enough credit for, is he understands his players. He don't make it about him. He got, look, I got Pat Mahomes, I got Travis Kelce, I got these guys on defense. I understand we've been here before, and we get here because we are willing to let these guys be who they are. Professionals, the first thing I learned when I got to National Football League is every other sports league, they do things to get it right. In the National Football League, we don't know how to get it wrong. We practice that much that we don't know how to get it wrong. So I'm looking forward to the game only because Patrick Mahomes never said you can't beat him. You just got to prove it. And that's the thing about football league. Look, I never said, listen, that ref that when his helmet busted open, he was supposed to go up. You want to know the power of Patrick Mahomes? I switched helmets for the world to see, and I did not come off the field. And guess what? You know what they told that ref? That's Patrick Mahomes. Don't worry about it.
Matt.
What else are you going to do? That guy would have had to have Secret Service running him out that stadium. He would have made Pat Mahomes take one play off. But I have appreciated this playoff run when I'm looking at a Baker Mayfield and his resurgence. When I'm looking at C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans, they don't even know they're not supposed to be here. They don't even know they're not supposed to be this good this early. And obviously, oh my God, as great as Lamar Jackson has been, I still don't think we've seen his best. He's just that good of a football player. But I like it. I like it. Listen, what is that? What's something about the immovable force and the immovable object or whatever?
Irresistible force and the immovable object.
You can have these two things because the greatest thing about playoff football is ain't no gimmicks. See, all that cute stuff you see during the season, fourth and inches, we punting. Ain't no we're going to go for it because every single possession matters. But I do think Pachinko at running back for Kansas City helps because when you grow up and you play at Rutgers, the snow, man, please, that's nothing to me. Hand me the rock. I think they're going to have to rely heavily on that running game because if your best receiver is a rookie for Kansas City right now, where's Kadarius Toney? Where's Amico Hardman? It can't just be Travis Kelce. He won't be. He's a great one-man band, but he won't be able to play good enough on this weekend to beat him. Yeah,
and real quick, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but Kadarius Toney's from Theodore or Mobile, and I know he played at Florida.
Yes.
Auburn and Alabama would have been wise to have signed that young man. I know Pat Dye Jr. is his sports agent over there in Buckhead in Atlanta. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to get back in who you think is the next Falcon coach. Matt, I want you to respond to what Ben just said. And I want to say the Vitamin Shop, 5338 Goodman Road in Olive Branch, Mississippi. They're open Monday through Saturday at 9:30 a.m., 8 p.m. When you go there, they've got all kinds of vitamins, supplements, additives, whatever. You get one body in life, one trip to the plate, and make it count. They have nutritionists, healthcare specialists there, a lot of buy one, get one offers going on. But I buy shot blocks. I buy the Goo energy packets. My wife and I buy the probiotics. They work. These are a great company to work with, the Vitamin Shop. Also, the new location opens up in Oxford, Mississippi, February 12th, grand opening February 23rd, again in Oxford. We'll take this quick break, and then we're going to be right back with Ben and Matt on Sidelines.
Hey, y'all, it's Ainsley from Hewlett & Dunn, just coming to let you know about our new collection of boots. It's going to be our dress boots. They're the Horsepower collection, and they're genuine exotic leathers and really comfortable. Comes in all different sizes and patterns, so come check them out.
Red River Ford and Toyota, located in Wynne, Arkansas. If you're in the market for a new or used car, truck, or SUV, call, go online, or drop by and see them. Located 45 minutes from Memphis, go off the 4-city exit on I-40 and go north about 15 minutes on Highway 1. Easy to work with and still believe in customer service. If you live out of town, they will deliver your vehicle to you. RedRiverFordToyota.com. Just see what they can do.
Strengthen your seed zone this spring with quality tillage equipment from House Industries. Located in Cherry Valley, Arkansas, House Industries specializes in manufacturing superior equipment that will minimize your downtime and keep you working in the field. To ensure the highest quality control, all design, fabrication, and testing takes place in a 99,000 square foot manufacturing facility located right here in the heart of the Delta. Locate your nearest House equipment dealer online at houseindustriesinc.com.
House Industries, breaking ground.
Sidelines with Rob Browne. Talk sporty to me.
All right. And Matt, he's breaking it down, this NFL stuff. This is cool. We talk mainly college. We're always going to be talking pros because our college guys go and play in the pros, and then the pro guys come back and talk about college, and it's all interrelated. But let's get your thoughts on what Ben said right to the break before we go to that Falcons question.
So Ben mentioned what I think is the greatest story in football this year when he talked about C.J. Stroud and D'Amico Ryans. D'Amico Ryans has a lot of Dan Campbell in terms of his presence and what it means in the locker room. We recycle all these dudes. Like I've never met Josh McDaniel, but I just get the appearance, Ben, of the thought that the Raiders love playing for Antonio Pierce. There's no doubt about it. They didn't even probably hated playing for McDaniel because he tried to be a mini Belichick, right? And guys see through that. Players see through that. It just goes to show you. Now, first of all, D'Amico Ryans was an unbelievable player. So the respect factor is there for one because he's done it at the highest level, and he's always been a leader of men wherever he's been. Like even J.J. Watt, they had a clip. He called him when he was coaching for the 49ers and Watt was getting ready to retire. They were hugging. He goes, "Hey, Cap." Somebody's captain. I mean, that man has proven that it's not all of – I mean, there is good enough talent on every NFL roster, guys. It's about what happens in that locker room. That's just my opinion, Ben. I know this doesn't get talked about a lot. Now, also, I will tell you, when I watched C.J. Stroud in that semifinal game last year when Ohio State, they make a field goal, they beat Georgia. That was a great Georgia team. C.J. Stroud dissected them. And honestly, if Marvin Harrison Jr. doesn't get banged up in the third, fourth quarter, whatever, could have been different. Didn't happen. Georgia rolled. I get that. But I think the Houston story is incredible right now.
Yeah. And real quick, Ben, D'Amico Ryans is from Bessemer. Jameis Winston is from Bessemer. Bo Jackson is from Bessemer. Hell of a player. I remember he was NFL Rookie of the Year. Was very underrated. This coming out of high school, but this guy's got a high football IQ. Love watching him be successful out with the Houston Texans. Okay, let's get to this question from T, the problem. I like this guy. I think he's from Muscle Shoals. And a side note here, those of you that are familiar with the great Southern rock band, you've probably heard of them, Lynyrd Skynyrd. Lynyrd Skynyrd, named after their PE coach, Leonard Skinner. They hated his guts down in Jacksonville, Florida. That's where the Swampers are, the great sessions recording studio that everybody would go. And Muscle Shoals, they got the Swampers. So he's asking, next Falcons coach, is it Job? Who is going to be the next Falcons coach? Because I spend a lot of time in Atlanta, Ben, and I know you do too. We got to meet up when I'm over there because our oldest daughter there, Mallory, graduated from Alabama. She's still a good person, lives there. Atlanta's 40 big exits. But the Falcons fans, I grew up watching the Falcons because of Pat Sullivan and then William Andrews, who played at Auburn, was there. But why can't they get it right? I think Arthur Blank, Bernie Marcus, Ken Langone, I think those guys they got a lot of money. Why can't they do it?
I think the biggest head scratcher when it comes to them Falcons is they overthink everything. I mean, and that's the only organization in Atlanta that don't overthink it is the Braves because they got their farm system and they trust the farm system.
Yeah.
And I think the thing about the Falcons is you got to decide what do you want. Obviously, the Bill Belichick's name is going to be going around, right? Maybe a Ron Rivera who's been in the NFC South. But to me, a guy that's on the rise that I think Aaron Glenn. I think Aaron Glenn, a guy like that, because when you look at the National Football League, what's different? When I played, the players had to adjust to the coach. You just had to. I mean, what the Jeff Fishers of the world, when you talk about the different guys, that was coming through. Now, the reason why DeMeco Ryans is having success is because he understands, hey man, I'd rather one adjust to 55 than 55 adjust to one. I'm willing to adjust to them dudes because it's easier. The thing about the Falcons is you underwhelming because you got a coach that doesn't have an identity. Arthur Smith came from the Titans because he handed the ball off to Derrick Henry, and Derrick Henry had 2,000 yards. Well, Derrick Henry has been like that since high school, college. He rushed for 2,000. He has the most rushing yards in high school football history. He rushed for 2,000 yards in the season, won the Heisman in Alabama, and he rushed for 2,000 yards, one of only two, the only team in the NFL with 2,000 yard regular season is the Titans, with CJ2K and Derrick Henry. Arthur Smith daddy is the owner and CEO of FedEx. His daddy is friends with Arthur Blank. If you don't think that had to do with the hiring, you don't hire like that in the NFL. And the thing is, the Falcons, this is one of the best seasons to win the NFC South when you look at how crazy it was. And they still had a shot. They don't get it right. Terry Fontenot, who used to be Jerry Fontenot is the reason why everything you see in New Orleans is happening. He was the one that brought in Sean Payton. They get Drew Brees, and the rest is history. Well, this is the thing about the Falcons is you don't got a quarterback. You got to have one. There's a young man, I don't know if you ever heard of him. He's from Kennesaw, Georgia, which is, outside of Atlanta, named Justin Fields. Yeah. I think you go out there and you find a way to put some picks together to get him, and then you got to get a coach. The reason why Ron Rivera would understand a big-time quarterback, because who's that guy he had? Cam Newton, another guy from Atlanta. So for me, you either go Bill Belichick. If you bring him in, you got to be willing to give everything up to him. And that worked in New England at the time because you had a Tom Brady who you can bring. I don't think that works in 2024 because it's more player-centric. It's more player-driven. Now, you still got to have the coach. Make no mistake about it. But I think without the blank, you just thinking too much. Listen, everybody is we live in a copycat world. What is working right now? Young coaches that are young enough to understand who they listening to on the radio or on their iPad or on their iPhone, but don't listen to it. Like, I know who you're listening to. Oh, yeah, because my son, I think that's the NFL we in now, and it's working. It works because Eric Bieniemy was an incredible offensive coordinator when he was at Kansas City, but he also let Pat Mahomes be Pat Mahomes, right? Yeah. He let him be with. And when I say let a person be with, let me help people understand what I mean by that. I don't mean you get to do what you want. I mean, don't take away what I am. I know you're going to add to it. So for Atlanta, listen, they thank Bill Belichick because they see Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick ain't no spring chicken no more. He don't got, 20 years left to coach, even if he wanted to. I think you go a hot shot coordinator like a Aaron Glenn, like a Byron Leftwich, because these guys can coach. They just haven't had the opportunity and see what happens. Because at the end of the day, I can say this: I think Mike Tomlin's last year with the Pittsburgh Steelers is going to be this season, and that's going to be some huge shoes to fill. But when Atlanta, you're still talking about a team that when you go to the games, when Deion Sanders pops up on the big screen, most of the kids in there are saying, what is the Colorado coach doing on the big screen? They don't even know Deion played for the Falcons. Your best player ever is a guy that played in the 90s. You see, that's who you see. They don't put up nothing about Michael Vick. I just think that for me, being a long time, I'm gonna die a Falcons fan. So yes, my Paul Bears will be Falcons players, so they can let me down one last time. It's rough, man. It's rough for me only because Falcons got Drake London, they got Kyle, they got Bijan Robinson, right? Yeah, they got all these players. They got Jesse Bates, they got Calais Campbell. Calais Campbell has over 100 sacks at D tackle, and guess what? you still didn't win the NFC South. So
Yeah.
they gonna have to stick with whoever they get. And if I hear Dan Quinn name come up, Dan Quinn will not come back that line. I don't want to hear no none. I don't want to hear no Dan Quinn wrong.
Let me throw look. I put up here Derrick Henry, Matt and Ben rushed for more than 12,000 yards at Yulee, Florida High School, which is between Jacksonville and Palatka, I think, over near the Johns River. Hell of a career. Matt Dean, you look around, and here's another one. Boy, I love this one. Rush Troupe for the next head coach for Atlanta. I guess he needs another family. But look, man, Matt, all this what we're seeing, he's talking about these coaches that say D'Amico Ryans can relate to the players. And, you can understand, hey, my parents love listening to the same music we do, and they still do. Dad and I would sit out there and listen to Willie Nelson, Merle Haggard, Hank Williams at night, drinking scotch and waters by the pool. And it's where you would I think about that. But, what's going on, and he can relate to me and I can relate to him. He's 95 and I'm a lot younger than him. But when you get to a coach in the NFL or college, let's talk about NFL. Matt, it looks like a lot of these guys are recycled. And maybe when you go outside your comfort zone, you're going to get a better coach. You're a coach.
Well, a couple thoughts. First of all, Ben mentioned a name that I'm also a Titans fan besides a Chicago Bear fan. If I'm the Falcons, Ben, I'm looking hard at Aaron Glenn. I really am, because I look at the success that Detroit has had. I also like the fact he was a hell of a player. He was a great player. And instantly he comes in our locker room and he will make some adjustments to those 55, Ben, but at the end of the day, he will garner a lot of respect. And I just come at it from a respect standpoint. I think it's so important. Now, this is what's interesting, and I don't know this guy, but a lot of people talk about Ben Johnson, the OC at Detroit. I'm sorry. Well, I don't really – hell, I'm 56. I remember Aaron Glenn as a player. I don't even know who Ben Johnson is. I don't think he was – definitely wasn't a star NFL player. I don't know what he did. But I just think you got to make a decision. Like a lot of people know, when Belichick got the Patriots a long time ago, a lot of us growing up remember him being the one talking to Lawrence Taylor as a DC in the Giants. And Lawrence Taylor was a generational player, one of the best players in the history of not only the NFL, but Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it, generational player. So Belichick came in a long time ago, had instant respect, and then he got lucky with the quarterback, and combination-wise, it was tremendous, right? But, I just think these days, we recycle too much, to your point. And honestly, if I'm Atlanta, I'm a really good coach and a quarterback away from being a problem. And, Ben, I don't know if Ritter can be developed. I know Heineke's not the answer. That's just me as a casual observer. I'm talking about, hey, Heineke almost got, won some games, but I'm talking about Super Bowl. That's why, everybody's trying to, Dallas had a bad game. Dak Prescott can still take a team to the Super Bowl, in my opinion. I believe that. He's really good. Had a bad game. Pick six. Yeah. The interception in the first quarter when it was 7-0, Jair Alexander made an unbelievable play on that ball.
Yes.
I think he jumped the slant. I mean, Brandon Cooks is right there. He comes through and catches it. It's an incredible play. I get so tired of the negative. Hey, the Packers just had a better plan. They, like we talked about, in that 53-55, there's enough talent for anybody to beat anybody. We don't, except for maybe a couple teams right now, in that type of environment, you can make a play and win the game. But getting back to the head coach, I would love for Aaron Glenn to end up in Nashville. I would, because I think what are your thoughts? I mean, honestly,
I would love that too. I mean, the thing about even real quick with the Packers thing, the same thing we say about hot weather teams that go to the cold weather. What do you think happened to cold weather teams that go to a dome? You see how fast they are. See them conditions, and I think the thing too, when you talk, D'Amico Ryans doesn't even understand what he's doing for black head coaches, man. He don't even realize because Listen, I don't want it to be about, the black coach versus the white coach. I never wanted to be that.
Exactly.
I want it to get to a point where you go, I'm going to hire the best candidate. If he just happens to have
there you go.
I said this on my show. They said, hey, Ben, do you tell me you want to get hired because you're a black guy? No, I don't want to not get considered because I am. No, don't hire me because I'm a black. I'm not qualified because I'm the black dude. I just don't want to not get considered. And here's the thing. What it really does is when it comes to these owners, right? There is nothing wrong with wanting to hire what you're comfortable with. Everybody does that. Yeah. But it starts open. If you the best press conference I've yet to see, look at Gerard Mayo sitting next to Robert Kraft saying, hey man, if you listen, I do see color. Yeah. He's attacking certain things because I have this platform. Because Gerard Mayo learned this with being a Patriot. They said, as long as you're a hell of a player, you could be yourself. Well, I was a great player for y'all. I spent my whole career there. And when Robert Kraft can hire anybody, Robert Kraft can take a coach from another team. He's Robert Kraft. But for him to tell Gerard Mayo, man, you're gonna be my head coach when Bill Belichick leaves. I mean, because everybody thought it was gonna be Josh McDaniels. Everybody thought it was gonna be Mike Vrabel. And it wasn't. And I think the thing about coaching now is it's saying to myself, there's only one Deion Sanders. But there was only one Deion Sanders when he played. There's nobody like him. But they say, hey, man, I want to be able to have a coach that understands this. If you can get these players, one, to understand, hey, man, I can't just talk about caring about y'all and taking care of y'all. But the only way that's going to work is if you win. See, what they don't tell you, some of the best coaches are some of the greatest people, but they don't win. And if you don't win, it's not going to matter. But when you do win, it seems like everything you did worked. Like I remember Bill Belichick when he was in Cleveland, right? I remember he was over there. Then they moved Cleveland in the middle of the night. They become the Baltimore Ravens. Cleveland comes back. And then he goes on to New England and things of that nature. And I think the thing is, Bill Belichick, to me, is a guy, I want the worst situation there is. And watch what I do with it. He don't want situations that's already built up. Cleveland, because if Cleveland doesn't get rid of Bill Belichick, who knows what Cleveland is at this current juncture. But I think that now with the NFL, you got players that come in and say, hey, coach, I got to adjust to the league, but my talent got me here. That's right. Yeah. My talent got me to this point. So, I just think that now when you look at these players now and these coaches now, the old school way works as long as the old school is winning. The old school way doesn't work if you're not winning. And the thing about Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, who didn't have an old school way, right? They said that was the most energetic, old seasoned gentleman we've ever been around. Talk about Nick Saban. Well, these dudes make way for the next legend. No one stop comparing people to these people. By the way, there is no Nick Saban again. There is no Bill Belichick again. But we'll see what happens with some of these coaches, though.
No, and like I'm putting the finger up here. Just we got about 10 minutes left. I agree with y'all. I mean, I don't give a damn who you are. I don't care if you're black or white. I don't want to listen to that. Send me the best people. Okay. Nobody ever complains when they're hoisting up a national championship trophy at Auburn or LSU or Florida or whatever. Too many black guys on the team, too many white guys. Nobody gives a damn. It's a lot of people in the media that try to make that. When we get to the point where we just literally do what we celebrated a holiday for on Monday, is just give me the best people with the best character. It's simple. And that's how we treat people. You know, my dad said, boy, you can read the Bible. It'll take you a while. As Carl Childers said on the movie Sling Blade, I read the Bible. It took me 4 years. Mm-hmm. But it took him 4 years to read it. That's a long time. But just my dad said, 10 Commandments, they're hard to – the golden rule, treat people like you want to be treated yourself. Just hold people accountable. Go find the best people. Nobody cares. That's what you got to do. Don't make it about anything but hiring the best people. And I tell you, DeMeco Ryans' demeanor, I don't know him, but he's a badass. You don't lead the NFL in tackles. And I'll tell you another one, my friend Marcus Woodson, who played at Ole Miss, like he says, he goes, I came in with Eli, I left with Eli, 99 to 03. Marcus is from Moss Point, Mississippi. They sent 37 players to Mississippi State over the years to play college football during a short time period. But it's really cool to hear Marcus. I go, do you know Patrick Willis? He goes, he's one of my closest friends. Y'all know him from West Tennessee, Williston, Tennessee, I think is where he's from. He was the number 23 player out of the top 25 players in the state of Tennessee. And I said, what's he like? He goes, he's really smart and he's driven and he plans every day. You know, most successful people, Ben, Matt, I'm sure you do this, have a to-do list that they write things they've got to do, and it's by their bed before they go to bed. Before you say your nightly prayers or you say your prayers when you get up in the morning, you look at that to-do list. That's what you do. He said Patrick Willis. I said, why did he retire? He goes, well, 8 years in the league, 7 years all pro. And he just decided that morning, I'm out. And, you know, I know this sounds like an overused term, but he got involved with starting a company out there in the Silicon Valley. And he's doing quite well. But you know, interesting bit of trivia. Patrick Willis at Ole Miss led the league in tackles with his arm in a cast and put 50% of every paycheck into tax-free municipal bonds. Being in the securities business for 33 years now, that's my kind of guy. I mean, but Matt, I mean, you talk about a fun guy would be fun to have on this show. Hey, who led the SEC in tackles with their arm in a cast, Matt? Wouldn't you love to have a roster full of players with the drive of a Patrick Willis or a Ben Troupe, who, by the way, hurdled someone and Mick Huber said, oh, my, Troupe's got a touchdown, Matt Dean.
So we've kind of gone off on a tangent there with the
I'm ADD and OCD, I have to admit.
Now, listen. Patrick Willis, he can ball. I'm just going to tell you what, I would not want to be coming around and get nailed by him. He's probably going over 20 miles an hour when he hits me with a lot of force. But Ben made a really brought up an interesting name that it bothers me that this man's not a head coach in the NFL. I mean, how is Byron Leftwich not leading a team right now with his resume? I mean, the guy was a terrific quarterback. I remember the offensive line carrying him injured down the field. We played at Marshall.
Yeah, Marshall. Yeah,
right. Had a really solid NFL career. Did a lot of great things as a coordinator. How has Eric Bieniemy not had a chance? Now I know there's certain things that we're not privy to because we don't vet people. We don't know what happened in everybody's lives. I get that, but I mean that's why I'm pulling for Aaron Glenn. We need more of those stories in the locker room, and you know what'll happen? It'll just proliferate, and that's what needs to happen, Ben. Because honestly, when we don't hire some of those guys, we look really bad. And I'm talking about me, Whitey, here. I'm just telling you, at the end of the day, and I'm not trying to be, color driven here, but there's no excuse that Bieniemy is not a head coach. And there's no excuse that Leftwich is not a head coach. I'm sorry. We've seen what some of these guys have done. McDaniel was at Denver the first time and blew it up. Why did he deserve an opportunity with the Raiders? I don't get it, Ben. I mean, I get it, but I don't like it, and that's why I root for Aaron Glenn to get an opportunity. I'm excited when DeMeco Ryans shines. I thought it was great they had a succession plan with Rob Mayo. Man, he was a bad man. I remember him in college. He was, and he had a good pro career too. And one of the things he said too, besides not seeing color, he also talked about, I'm not here to be Bill Belichick, and I think, and I kind of read between the lines here. You talked about spring chicken. I get it. Bill's had a great career. He wants to get maybe 15 more and break Shula's record. I get it. But, man, he's not the right guy, in my opinion, for the Falcons right now. That's just my opinion because we just we just saw him with no quarterback in New England. What did that turn out? Like if you were going to tell me he's going to go somewhere with a proven quarterback like he's done before, I'd be like, yeah, he can make the defense better. They can win. But not in Atlanta, man. First of all, in this draft, if they're smart, I hope my Bears don't give away Justin Fields. I'm a big Justin Fields fan. Yeah. I want to trade the first pick, get more picks like they did with getting DJ Moore and let's get Marvin Harrison Jr. to put with DJ Moore and keep Justin Fields back there. We just need someone that can mentor the quarterback. That's my opinion.
Yeah,
So.
We got a couple of minutes left. This is an unbelievable discussion. I mean, we have covered a lot of ground. That's what we love doing. Executive producer Brendan Martin is doing a lot, and you know him, Ben. He loves you and Buddy and Franz and Allie, the whole crowd, the Gator cabal. So I just say Ben Troupe. That name speaks for itself. A badass 6'4", 243-pound tight end who works out every day, stays in incredible shape. And by the way, Ben, looking at pro football players, people I know, like we have Wesley Britt on here. Wesley's 6'8", 350. He looks like he weighs about 225. I mean, he played in Alabama 4 years and played for the Chargers 1 year, 4 years with the Patriots. And Wesley was talking one time on the show, and so it's nothing he said in private, but when he goes fishing with us, it's a lot of fun. He said he was in a stance one day at practice. It was like a 3-inch versus a 6-inch split or something. He said Bill Belichick walked up to him, put his arm around him and said, Wesley, that's a 6, you're in a 3, or you're a 3, and that's a 6, whatever. He goes, you get that right, or you'll be finding another place to work. Have a good day. That's life in the NFL, man. If you don't have thick skin, you're not going to survive. And I think what we're seeing with sports, we can have all the government programs and rulings from the Supreme Court we want. But as Pat Dye famously said, January 2nd, 1984, before Auburn played Michigan in the Sugar Bowl, I ain't ever seen anything that pulls people together, black, white, and everything in between, more than college football and sports. Because in the military, you want to look, if you ever get down on this country, and Ben, you got people in your family in the military. I'm the first one on either side going back for hundreds of years not to be. But if you're ever feeling bad about America, you get really mad, go to a 4th of July picnic on a military post or a base. Okay. Army calls them a post, Marines and Navy, a base, and the Air Force, a base. We have the best people. And we're the most blessed people in the history of the world. What we're seeing in sports right now, it's kind of crazy. Everybody's running around with their hair on fire. The free market will work all of this stuff out. Okay? The Buddy Martin Show, Troupe. Troupe's got a touchdown. Oh my. Did you see it? Jump.
That's Brendan Martin all day long.
Hey, but Buddy's kind of like Clive Davis, in the music industry. How many careers has Buddy Martin helped to launch? And Matt, Buddy Martin and his son Brendan, who's now working with us as our executive producer, he and Nigel, without these brilliance of these people, I don't know what we would do, but man, this is a lot of fun. Hey, we got to say this, and I'm telling you what, we've run out of time, but most often we see the face of Christ in the least among us. Nothing pulls people together more, though, than hard work and faith and loving what you do and loving the people that you're around. And we are so blessed to have the best guests, best team members, board of advisors, and sponsors every day. This has never worked. Ben, let them know how they can follow you real quick. And then, Matt, you do the same. And everybody be careful out there today. Go get you a 4-wheel drive, 4x4 truck, Toyota or Ford at Red River Ford Toyota in Wynne, Arkansas. They're open Monday through Saturday, 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. But Ben, tag us out, and then you, Matt, and we'll see you tomorrow.
You can find me on all our social media outlets at Ben Troupe 84, Troupe 84, also at 84 Reasons. And go to www.theuncommon.cru.com. That is my nonprofit, my enrichment program for these young boys trying to do my part.
Love it. Thank you so much, Matt.
At Dino Hoops 44, and you can follow Rhodes College Links at www.rhodeslinks.com. It's always a pleasure to be on here with Mr. Troupe. He's one of the best in the business. Until next time, Ben. Good to see you, man.
Yeah, and John Hartwell was not with us today. By the way, as an athletic director, he said we were so backed up. Monday was a holiday. Then 2 days of bad weather. The university was closed. So he's trying to do a little bit of catch up. He'll need about 35 hours in the day. But we got a great show in store for you tomorrow. Until then, everybody be careful. And thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Tell your friends. Tell everybody about Sidelines. See you then.